For every figure who carves their name into history with fire and fear, there comes a reckoning. They build empires of terror, command armies of zealots, and believe themselves to be agents of destiny. But they are still mortal. And when the world they sought to dominate turns its full, unblinking gaze upon them, the hunter becomes the hunted. Their final hours are not tales of glory, but of paranoia, desperation, and brutal finality. This is the story of the end, the story of how the most wanted men in the world met their fate. For nearly a decade, the ghost of September 11th had a name: Osama bin Laden. He was a specter, a myth whispered in the mountains of Afghanistan. But in reality, he was a prisoner in a self-made cage, a 3-story compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. He lived a life of shadows, cut off from the world, his every move a calculated risk. Then, on a moonless night in May of 2011, the silence was broken. 2 ghost-like helicopters descended from the Afghan sky, carrying the elite of the U.S. Navy SEALs. The raid was a whirlwind of controlled violence. Room by room, floor by floor, they cleared the compound, climbing toward the man who had haunted the world's imagination. On the top floor, the decade-long shadow was finally cornered. A few muffled shots, and it was over. The architect of the 9/11 attacks lay dead on the floor of his bedroom. His body was taken, identified, and within 24 hours buried in the anonymity of the sea, leaving behind only a demolished compound and the closing of a chapter. His successor, Ayman al-Zawahiri, learned from his master's mistakes. For another decade, he evaded capture, a phantom flitting between safe houses. But technology is a patient hunter. By 2022, U.S. intelligence had tracked him to a balcony in a wealthy Kabul neighborhood. They didn't need a team of SEALs this time. They watched, they learned his routine, and they waited for the perfect moment. The weapon chosen was as precise and terrifying as the man it targeted: the R-9X Hellfire, a missile that doesn't explode but kills with 6 whirling blades. At sunrise on July 31st, as the 71-year-old Zawahiri stepped onto his balcony, a drone delivered justice from miles away. Not with a bang, but with the cold, sharp whisper of steel. He was killed instantly, his family inside unharmed. A life measured in decades of hiding ended in a single, silent moment. If Zawahiri's end was surgical, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's was an act of desperate self-immolation. The self-proclaimed caliph of the Islamic State, a man who once commanded a territory the size of Britain, was reduced to a paranoid fugitive. He slept in a suicide vest, traveled only at night, and trusted no one. By late 2019, his caliphate was a ruin, and he was cornered in northwest Syria. American special forces descended on his compound. As dogs and soldiers closed in, he fled into a dead-end tunnel, dragging 2 of his own children with him. Trapped, with nowhere left to run, he triggered the vest he wore as a constant companion. The blast that killed him also killed his children, a final, horrific act in a life defined by brutality. He denied his enemies the satisfaction of capture, but his end was not one of defiance, but of utter, pathetic desperation. This desperation was a common theme. In Iraq, years earlier, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the butcher known for beheading hostages on camera, was tracked to a safe house. 2 500-pound bombs erased the building from existence. But Zarqawi, impossibly, survived the initial blast. When troops sifted through the rubble, they found him conscious, mortally wounded, trying to crawl from a stretcher. He died minutes later, but his autopsy suggested a slow, agonizing end, his lungs shredded by the shockwave. His last hour was not a blaze of glory, but a painful, suffocating demise in the dust. Sometimes, the threat comes not from a drone in the sky, but from the man standing next to you. In the murky world of militancy, loyalty is a currency that can be easily devalued. Abu Nidal, once the world's most feared Palestinian militant, was living under the protection of Saddam Hussein in Baghdad. But protection in a dictator's court is a fragile thing. In 2002, Iraqi intelligence came to his door. The official story was suicide, but whispers told a different tale: multiple gunshots, and execution ordered by Saddam himself, who perhaps feared what secrets Nidal might reveal to the invading Americans. The truth, like the man himself, was buried under layers of conflicting accounts. A similar fate befell Carlos Castaño, the ruthless co-founder of Colombia's most powerful paramilitary group. He grew too bold, speaking too freely about the group's ties to drug trafficking. His own allies, including his brother, decided he had become a liability. On an ordinary morning in 2004, he was ambushed, captured, tortured, and executed by his own men. For 2 years, he was simply a ghost, his fate a subject of wild speculation. Then an informant led authorities to a shallow grave. The monster who had orchestrated countless massacres had been dismembered and burned by his own comrades, an end born not of war, but of pure betrayal. The end can also be shrouded in the fog of war, where the line between combat death and execution blurs into nothing. For 25 years, Velupillai Prabhakaran, leader of the Tamil Tigers, waged a bloody war in Sri Lanka. In May 2009, he was cornered with his last bodyguards in a lagoon. After a final, desperate battle, his body was found, a dog tag marked 001 around his neck. The official reports cited shrapnel wounds, but photos showed a close-range head wound, fueling claims he was captured alive and executed. His 12-year-old son was photographed alive in custody, only to be found dead hours later. In the final moments of a brutal war, the rules of engagement simply cease to exist. Sometimes a single death creates ripples that spread for years. In 1992, Israeli intelligence switched a plan to kidnap Hezbollah leader Abbas al-Musali to an assassination. As his convoy drove through southern Lebanon, Apache helicopters struck. The Hellfire missiles incinerated his car, burning him, his wife, and his 5-year-old son alive. Israel had eliminated a leader, but his replacement proved even more formidable. In retaliation, Hezbollah and its allies bombed the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires, killing 29, and 2 years later, a Jewish community center, killing 85 more. One man's death birthed a new cycle of bloodshed. From the mountains of Algeria, where French forces hunted down al-Qaeda commander Abdelmalek Drokdel, to the deserts of Yemen, where a drone strike ended the life of the American-born propagandist Anwar al-Awlaki, the story repeats. Each man believed he was bending the arc of history. Each believed his cause was eternal. But in the end, their grand ambitions were reduced to a rubble-strewn compound, a shallow grave, or a flash of light on a drone operator's screen. Their empires of terror crumble into dust, their names fade into cautionary tales, and the world they sought to burn simply moves on, leaving them behind as ghosts of a violent past. If these echoes from the past resonate with you, subscribe to our channel for more stories that uncover the human drama behind the headlines, and share your thoughts in the comments below.